everything in life, people prepare for it. When you're going through a process of business, there's continued preparation and learning. Anybody who plays a sport, there's continued training and preparation and coaching, right? Any field that you go in, people go to school to prep for their career. Nobody just gets out and begins something and never receives any kind of preparation or training or coaching or learning. It's unrealistic, but it's only this lazy mentality when it pertains to relationships. Even those who are mothers do some form of prepping, whether that's asking other people, whether that's reading books, whether that's, going through the actual experience. Everybody has to go through an experience of preparation and training and coaching and learning. It's the way of life. Nothing around us exists without us having to learn, change, and grow. So if you believe that you can have a successful relationship and you don't want to hear anything else, that's your personal choice, but don't be mad with the results.
Hey, it's Logan Renee of the Soulcation Podcast, the home of all things soul care, a place where we heal, we grow, and we laugh, all while you're building your six-figure business or CEO career. And now for our Soulcation announcements. Make sure you're attending the Soulcation Life class that's going to happen February 25th. And this one is going to be juicy because we already did part 1 to this. We're bringing the men back. The Men Tell All part 2. And we're going to talk about how hard it is to stay in relationships. We're going to talk about non-negotiables. How do you live in a house when you have different visions, where you want to see your family than your boyfriend or your spouse? Not wanting children, not able to conceive children, how to be hurt in a relationship or something toxic happen in a relationship, but you still are committed. We're going to talk about interracial relationships. All of these things will be covered, ladies. So you want to be there for our Soulcation Life class, The Men Tell All. All of the links will be in the show notes. Make sure you're a part of the Soulcation Tribe Facebook group for more details. Also, mark your calendars for the 2021 Soulcation Retreat. I just want to be the real me. We're going to talk about having a CEO mindset. We're going to talk about liking and accepting the woman you are and forgiving the woman that you were. We're going to talk about releasing self-doubt, unpacking brokenness. We're going to give away trips. We're going to give away a lot of door prizes. There are going to be some amazing people on the panel. And since you're a giant, we want giants in the room. So you want to make sure that you're there. Mark your calendar for Saturday, August 28th, and more details can be found at loganrenee.com. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Soulcation Podcast. I have probably one of your favorite coaches, especially if you attended the Soulcation Life class. He was giving us all type of nuggets and all type of gems. We have Joseph Kemp back with us. He's a speaker, a teacher, a family and relationship coach, and founder of Menzvolution. Did I say that correct, Joseph?
That is correct.
Okay. So he coaches singles and he coaches couples. And we're going to get into how he even got into this work, because we know coaching people on their little relationships, honey, get a little touchy. Okay. So we want to welcome the podcast, Joseph. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yay. Okay. So we were talking a little bit about the show. Talking before the show. How did you get into this work? Because again, like I said, people can be very touchy about their relationships, raising their kids, who they dating, and it seems like we've gotten a little bit more sensitive lately for some reason.
Absolutely.
How have you gotten into the work, and how do you deal with coaching people on a very sensitive subject?
So I've always been a voice of reason since about age 17. I'll try to keep it short and simple. So I've always been a person giving advice on a number of subjects. People always have felt comfortable to come and talk to me about their different challenges, if you will, that they're facing in life. Everybody needs a listening ear. So I was that person trying to give counsel as best as I can. It's not within the last 2 years when I really started to focus on relationships and family, because I always had questions around all the myths and all the stereotypes that you hear, things about happy wife, happy life. I would say to myself, well, it's not just a woman in a relationship, it's two people. Both people should be happy for it to work. Or you would hear things like, behind every great man is a great woman. And I would say, okay, there may be some truth to that, but if a man is single, does that mean that he can't be great by himself if a woman is not there? And so I just think we kind of hang on these myths and these stereotypes, and they become our reality because we believe them. So my focus has been the last 2 years on relationships, bringing about, healthy practices and really giving people a different perspective on how they view them so they can actually begin to take ownership of their own relationship. I think most of us, we inherit a vision from someone else, whether that's our parents or our grandparents or what we see through the media. And we never really understand what it is that we want and what we need to be able to differentiate between those things and move forward. As far as coaching people, it is case by case, honestly, depending on the subject, whether it is a trigger or it is a situation where a person hasn't healed in that particular area, or just the fact that some people become offensive about just the idea of changing, having to change who they are. Some people feel that I shouldn't have to change anything about myself. If you just embrace me as I am, everything will be fine. And we know as coaches that's unrealistic. So it's really case by case.
Right. That's really good, Joseph. I want to piggyback on what you just said because I was watching LaToya Luckett's interview and she was like, it's crazy how we put these things on a pedestal. And then when we get into it or get what we want, we figure out, it's not as great as we thought. That longing, that desire, and we get that. It's like, I'm disappointed or I'm let down because I've taken my focus off who is the source and I'm putting my hope in this fake source. How do we desire a thing? Let's say a relationship for those who are single, desire a thing without worshiping it, without looking to it like it's going to be the savior. It's the thing that I'm missing. It's the thing that I'm lacking. How do we take those two things and separate them?
I think it goes back to personal growth, honestly. When you work on yourself and you start taking more ownership for the way that you think and the way that you live and for the things that you practice, you give yourself an opportunity to not walk in idolatry. For those who are believers, putting God first and foremost, that's a big deal right there. Continue to center your relationship based upon Jesus Christ himself. For those who are not believers, it will be centering yourself along your principles and values, which are non-negotiable, and understanding that this is who you are, this is what you live by, your code, if you will, and you don't change based on those things. Everything else can change. Behavior traits can change, thinking patterns, right? The way we interact with people, communication, you can go down the list. All those things can be worked on, but your foundation of who you are, your identity, that should never change. And so when people look for their identity in other people, I believe that's where that thin line of worship comes in, because it's like you were looking at them like a God-like figure, not understanding that we as people are perfectly imperfect. So nobody's perfect. Doesn't matter how much you hold them in awe or how much you honor them or respect them. All of us have flaws. It is the beauty of being human.
That's good. So how do you determine what it is that you want to need? Because a lot of times, like you said earlier, we have this borrowed vision of what we want our relationships to look like, So how do you sit and decide, okay, this is really what I want and this is truly what I need?
It is a learning experience. I think it's a combination of different things. I think experience is important to a certain extent. The Bible talks about having a wise counsel. So you would need to develop a wise counsel, people who may not necessarily be smarter than you, but who have more wisdom than you do. So who can provide you wisdom in certain areas, whether that's in your personal growth, in your relationships, in your finances. You think about all the different levels of growth for us, spiritual, emotional, mental, financial, and physical. You need to connect yourself to people who are more advanced, if you will, or who are further along in those areas to help you to mature. So I think your counsel is important. I think investing in yourself, self-reflection, reflecting on experiences. There's lessons in every experience. Switching our mindset from experience to student mentality, where even though you experience things, you're always looking for the lessons. So keep it simple. I'll say mindset shift first. Student mentality, approach everything with student mentality. You can learn from it. 2, having a wise counsel. Your inner circle, who you surround yourself with, is very, very important. Also, 3, I would say always being optimistic. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people are very closed. They don't give themselves room to grow or to see something from a different light or to be able to change. They kind of lock themselves into a box and say, this is what it is, this is how it is, don't try to change me. But what they fail to realize is that change is always taking place, whether it's intentional or by default. So you will never be the exact same person every year or every 3 years or every 5 years or every 10 years. Like, you will change. And so you have to give yourself room to be able to grow. It really is a process. It's not a 10-step process. It's not, it's not, if you do these several things, then everything's going to magically change. No, it really is a process. But the more intentional you become about the way you live, the way you think, and what you say, the more you have an opportunity to begin to accelerate the process of personal growth.
I think that's what's hilarious about us as a culture. Like, we we think it's gonna be 5 steps, 3 steps. If you do 2 crunches a day, you'll get, 6 steps. And nothing is that simple, and nothing is ever that easy. I don't know why we get into a relationship thinking it's gonna be, we skating in the park holding hands every day because that's what we
Right.
Instagram. It's like it's not even real.
But think about what you said. You said a key word, which is culture. We live in the microwave culture where everything is instant.
Yeah.
We are programmed by what we hear every day. Advertisement itself is so powerful because they literally speak to your subconscious mind. When you see a commercial over and over and over and over again, without you realizing it, it's influencing how you purchase. It's influencing your decision making. And so because everything around us is constantly pushing the message that you don't have to go through a process, you don't have to wait, you can have it now, people take that same mentality over into their relationships. Well, I want love now. I want a great relationship now. I want what I see on TV now. And they eliminate the process, which is the actual work where you discover more about yourself and the other person to see if you guys are willing to come together and build. They eliminate that and they think they're going to go from A to Z. And it just doesn't work that way.
That's good. I'm happy you brought that up because I've had women in the tribe, cousins, friends say, with the old online dating, they feel like they're a part of a shuffle. And they'll come in like super hard first month, second month. You're gorgeous. I see you. You're doing amazing. Selling them a dream, right?
Right.
And then I don't know where they just disappear. You're like, wait, what happened? And then they'll come back a month later, 3 months later, 6 months later. Oh, I miss you. I've been thinking about you. And I've heard this so many times, Joseph. It's ridiculous. What is going on? Like, seriously. Like, is it they lose interest quickly? Is it they have somebody, ready? Is it a game? Because a lot of women are feeling like played, ghosted, and some women that I know that are super, super confident, their self-esteem just drops because this person just swoops in like, Captain Save them. And then just
Right. I think when it pertains to men, and it's always such a touchy subject because I am a man myself, but there are different levels of maturation for men. It's hard to pinpoint one particular thing with this question because it could be a number of things.
Yeah.
And let me be clear, I'm not making excuses for anybody's behavior, especially men, but I don't have enough to answer it thoroughly, but I will give you what I believe could be some situations. One, men could be, in this case, scared of commitment. They don't know what it is to actually commit for the long haul, to commit to the unknown. It is true that the unknown scares people. So maybe the first 3 months are a comfort place. And so the man is vibing with you. And then after he passes 3 months, he's like, what do I do now? So instead of confronting that or being willing to experience, he backs out. It's easy to run away. Another thing could be adversity. We know that people deal with adversity differently. Some people go into a mode of introversion where they just close themselves off. So if something happens with him personally, or if he was offended by something within a conversation, there was some type of conflict that was never addressed, unspoken communication, always a problem in a lot of relationships, he could back out for that very reason as well. I don't think the response in every situation, even though the behavior is the same, the root of it is the same. Yeah. And something that we can do as humans, which all of us are guilty of, if we can look only at the behavior and we can formalize our assumption based on the behavior, what the reason is, without actually being able to get that answer from the other person. And so for the women that are out there who are going through that, I would be more mindful. And I'm actually going to be working on a course for that. Then I'm going to create kind of like a probation period for the first 90 days. What are things that you want to be looking for and questions that you want to be asking? Because I don't think women very vocal about the things they need to be vocal about, not until it's too late. I have had the opportunity to coach and talk to many women, and they will, it's one extreme on the other. On one end, they'll only focus on the red flags, and when they see too many red flags, they'll disconnect themselves. Or they'll focus too much on just looking for the good, and they'll overlook the red flags, and then they'll call them later down the line. Then they'll find themselves in the same place. So I think a healthy balance of both. Everybody has red flags because we are different. Red flags are usually something in reference to a pet peeve of yours or something that might annoy you or something that you think could be an issue down the line. And going back to my comment earlier, we are all perfectly imperfect. So finding that right balance of being realistic, but also being aware of who the other person is important.
I love that. And y'all be on the lookout for this course too. So what are a couple questions that a woman should be asking initially when she starts to date?
You want to just understand him as a person. And with guys, I will always encourage women to start with passion. Ask them, what are the things that you're passionate about? And what are the things that you like in life? Don't ask him relationship questions to start with. You want to understand him, because I feel like men now are trained to answer relationship questions with what they believe you want to hear. But if you ask him questions based upon things that he likes and things that he's passionate about, you're going to get genuine answers, because men are not going to lie about what they're passionate about. They can lie to you, and I'm not saying that's all men, but as an example, they can lie to you and have scripted answers of what you want to hear, and you never get in depth of who they are. But if you ask them questions around themselves, that will give them the opportunity to open up. And as they're opening up, you'll be able to gauge between what he says and what you actually see.
Yeah, I was listening to Tony Gaskins one day, and he was like, never tell a man specifically what you want, because he's just going to contour himself to be there for a moment, to get exactly the men that are childish, not men, but men that are childish. They'll use what you say against you to get, what it is they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. So when people say all the time, you got to put in the work, you got to work, a relationship is all about the work. What does that mean? Like, what does it mean? Does it mean we go to counseling every 2 months? Does it mean we get a book and we read it on the couch drinking coffee? Does it mean, we have wise counseling every Tuesday? What does the work mean?
Work to me means whatever is required to build a relationship. Okay. Work is the umbrella, and under that umbrella is many things, and that's going to vary for every single relationship. Everybody has, both personally and when it pertains to their relationships, different areas where they are considered strengths or they are considered weaknesses. Some things that everybody needs to work on in all relationships is one, communication. I think both men and women are not great at communication. The difference that people believe that women are stronger in this sense is because they are expressive, responsive. Women are more known and common to expressing feeling and thought, but expression of what you feel and think and actually communicating is not the same thing. Communication is an actual skill that you learn. Learning what words to use, how to communicate, understanding timing, approach, the tone of your voice. Most women, I don't believe, have mastered that. And that's not a knock on women. I'm just saying as a whole, this is on both men and women. Communication is a skill. So all couples have to work on how they communicate, which is something they have to learn. All couples have to also work on listening, like giving someone your undivided attention. Everyone today is on their phone or they're preoccupied looking at something else. How many couples can actually say that when the other person talks, they are fully engaged in what they're saying. That's very rare. So communication and listening, which are two skills everybody needs to work on in their relationships. Everybody also must take responsibility for their own personal growth. Start with the basics. Start reading books on relationships. Start reading books on areas where you feel like you have a strength and on areas where you feel like you might be weak in. I was thinking about this today. I was talking to one of my brothers that I call my brother, and I was telling him, we talk so much about effort. That's my big word. But what about preparation? How many people are actually prep themselves ahead of time for a relationship? Do you have the time to commit to an actual relationship? Are you in a position financially where you might have to go on dates? And if not, have you put a plan in place for budget dates? Right? Are we prepping for dates? Are we prepping for interaction? Are we prepping to have time to invest in someone else? Are we prepping for personal growth where we're able to invest in ourselves and invest in a relationship? Most people are not doing that, right? Before you go to a job interview, what do? You prep. You want to wear the right clothes. You want to make sure that, you're going clean cut or you got your hair done. You want to make sure that you're there on time. There's a preparation process. And so we need to start taking this approach to relationships. Am I in a position now to actually invest into a relationship? Being physically attracted to someone is not enough because physical attraction doesn't carry relationships. It's only the beginning process.
Now, Joseph Kemp, I might have to tell the children to send you a cash app.
Yeah.
In a word. I like the preparation. I've heard some people say, well, every relationship is different. So why should I have to read a relationship book because my relationship is not going to be like that. So for the naysayers that are rejecting what you're saying, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, you respectfully deserve not to have a successful relationship. And the reason why I say that, let's look at our life. Let's have a real conversation. Everything in life, people prepare for. When you're going through a process of business, there's continued preparation and learning. Anybody who plays a sport, there's continued training and preparation and coaching, right? Any field that you go in, people go to school to prep for their career. Nobody just gets out and begins something and never receives any kind of preparation or training or coaching or learning. It's unrealistic, but it's only this lazy mentality when it pertains to relationships. Even those who are mothers do some form of prepping, whether that's asking other people, whether that's reading books, whether that's, going through the actual experience. Everybody has to go through an experience of preparation and training and coaching and learning. It's the way of life. Nothing around us exists without us having to learn, change, and grow. So if you believe that you can have a successful relationship and you don't want to hear anything else, that's your personal choice. But don't be mad with the results.
That's good. For those who are in a relationship, they have put in the work. They are working on communication, every single day. They're adjusting to, living together. How do you make your man feel appreciated?
That's a good question. I think all men, for the most part, share one thing in common, and that is to acknowledge the good that he does. Yeah. I think sometimes women can only speak on the things that they don't like, or we can only focus on the red flags. We don't seek out the good. A lot of people, I believe, will go into a relationship, or even if they're in a relationship, and their mind is so focused on identifying what the issue is and what the problem is that they don't give the same energy and time to focusing on the good, because anybody can point out the negative. Yeah. It doesn't matter how great the person is. Anybody can sit back and nitpick. That's the easiest thing to do. But can you take the time to actually acknowledge, even if it's simple things, if it's something that really registers with you, like something simple as taking out the trash. Hey, baby, I really appreciate, that you always take out the trash or that you always do the dishes. I know I'll cook, but I don't like doing dishes. I really appreciate you do that. Those things that seem very small, they mean something to the man because it's an expression of appreciation to him. So acknowledge the good that he does. Don't just sit back and nitpick about all the things that he doesn't like. Because if the table was turned and he did that to you as a woman, you wouldn't feel pretty good about yourself. That's
good. It's so funny because I was talking with my best friends yesterday about how easy it is to look at the negative, to look at what's bad. And it's crazy how hard it is for us to sit back like yesterday on Thanksgiving, like literally looking at your life and making a list of things that you are grateful for. Like, why is it so hard for us to look at the good things, to look at everything that we do have? And then my auntie puts a quote in our little group me, and she says, this year was not about trying to get what you want from God, but looking at your life and thanking him for all that you already have. You know, that's what 2020 was all about. So why is it so hard for us to be grateful?
I think it's a part of our nature. I mean, when you go back to the Bible, you think about the Israelites, all they did was complain. They saw about every single miracle that you could possibly see from God, and they still complain.
Yeah.
They still complain. They still express their ingratitude. I think the things that are good have to be practiced because we are naturally sinful. Like, we are naturally ungrateful. We naturally take things for granted. We are imperfect people. So I think the worst things about us are a part of who we are, because we're in this sinful body. But the things that are good, which are always preached throughout the word, you have to practice those things. You have to practice having the right thoughts. You have to practice seeking out the good. You have to practice discipline. You have to practice setting boundaries. Everything that will be beneficial for you, you have to practice. And also keep in mind, Logan, that doing the things that are beneficial usually don't feel good. Yeah. And we are a culture that is so focused on pleasure to the point that it is robbing us of living our very best life. We feel that anything that is good, it has to feel good. And that's not true.
Yeah. That's so good. That's a word, Joseph Kemp. So where can the ladies connect with you and find you, especially the course that's coming out? I know there's so many great things that you're working on that's coming. So where can the ladies connect with you and how can we support you?
The course it's a work in progress. I literally just started on it, so that won't come out until next year, but I'll try to get that wrapped up as soon as possible. Right now, you can just follow me on Instagram. I will start a podcast next year as well, as I'm working on the course. So within the first 3 months of next year, before March is over, I'll have those things completed. But right now, just Instagram, I am Joseph Kemp. I do a live every Wednesday and sometime throughout the week as well. You can follow me there.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, ladies, you heard it here. Make sure you share this episode with your closest friend, especially if she's in a relationship. Even if she's not in a relationship, honey, this is great advice across the board. Because at the end of the day, even if you're not dating somebody, you still have family members or friends that we all have to learn compassion and discipline and boundaries, all those things with. So I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Soulcation Podcast. Talk to you soon. My hope is that your soul just went on a vacay and you have tools that you can apply to your life today. For more in-depth tools, head on over to loganrenee.com. Also, if you have questions that weren't answered on this episode, email your questions to logan@loganrenee.com and I'll answer them here on the show. I'll talk to you soon.